So thank you guys for joining. We're really excited that you're here. We have an amazing real estate agent, Sally, who's here with us today. She's going to share with you all about what she does, kind of her journey to how she became a real estate agent, all that good stuff. So we're just going to go ahead. We're going to jump in, and Sally, I'll go ahead and let you get started. And then if you want to leave time for questions at the end or allow students to ask kind of throughout, that's totally up to you. Okay. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you. So yeah, I think we can make this more like a discussion in some ways. Obviously, it's hard to have a discussion when you can't all speak into the computer. But if you guys have like questions already that you want answered, you could write them down and maybe pass them over so that they can be put in the chat box. Or as they come up, physically raise your hand and we can take the question. I have like an outline I'll go through, but that's only to help me remember some things I wanted to talk about. So first to get started, hey Arupe, I've worked with Arupe students in my career, so yeah. And how many of you guys know people in real estate, are familiar with real estate? You can just raise your hand. All right, it's all brand new. And did someone else just join, Audrey?
Yes, it looks like we had another student join. Hi, Berto, thanks for joining. We just got started. So if you want to just, if you could put in the chat real quickly what school you're from. But yeah, we just got started. You haven't missed much.
Can I just say what school I'm from?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I attend a New Legacy Charter School. I'm currently a senior, but I'm interested in learning about real estate.
Awesome.
So, yeah, one of my teachers set me up.
Awesome.
Cool. Well, so what I was just saying to everybody else was, if you have questions off the bat, you can just type them in the chat. More than anything, I want to make sure I answer your guys' questions, right? So start typing them in the chat, and Audrey will help me make sure that we get to them. And then, yeah, we'll get started. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, because my journey to real estate was not in a straight line. I'm going to share my little outline to help me remember what I'm talking about. All right. So, as Audrey mentioned, my name's Sally. I am a realtor with a brokerage called Live Laugh Denver. And we're a pretty small brokerage. We have about 20 people. A brokerage, which I define later, but I'll tell you now, is basically like the company that the realtors hold their license with or work for. All realtors are independent contractors. And so, all right, so I'm going to tell you guys a little bit about how I got here. So for me personally, I have a 4-year college degree from CU. Go Buffs. After I graduated from college, I did a few things. I actually worked in schools. I was a substitute teacher. I ran after school programming in some elementary schools in Denver. And then I decided to go into the real estate business. So I worked in mortgages, which is basically like the loans that people get to buy their homes. And then I got my real estate license because I did not like working in mortgages. It's a lot of math. And at the time, it was just, it wasn't a very honest industry and ethical at the time. It's much better now. So I got my real estate license. I was about 23, 24. And what I kind of didn't realize at the time going in was that real estate is almost entirely commission only job. So that means like you don't make an hourly wage. So at most jobs you make like say $12 an hour, and you clock in and you get your hourly wage and you clock out, or you have a salary, which is how much you make in a year, and you just go to work and you get your paycheck, and they're always the same. In real estate, you only get paid if you do a deal. So if you sell a house, so if you help someone buy a house or sell a house, you get a percentage of that as your pay. So when I was 23 or 24, I didn't know many people buying and selling houses. I hadn't grown up in Colorado, so I didn't even have like my parents' friends or like teachers I'd known or anyone I knew who was buying and selling a house. And that was really hard to figure out how to make money. And so I left real estate. I needed to pay my rent. I needed a different job. I didn't really give it a huge shot because I needed to pay my rent. So I worked in nonprofits for a little while. I went back to school. I got a master's degree in social work. And then I worked in nonprofits for about 10 more years. Working with, in high schools. I've worked with a lot of the different high schools in Denver, doing a variety of things. And then about a year ago, I decided I wanted to have a more flexible schedule. I wanted to not be anybody's boss anymore. And I didn't really want anybody to be my boss anymore. So I decided to go back and become a real estate agent because I knew that I had liked it before. And now I have a little more stability. I have a husband who also has an income to help pay our mortgage. And I know a lot more people who are buying and selling houses because now I'm in my 40s. So that's how I got to where I am today. Cool.
Hey, Sally, sorry to interrupt real quick. And I think you're probably going to get to this. But in the chat, Arupe was just asking if you could explain a little more in depth about what a realtor, like what exactly that person does. And also your camera is off at the moment. So if you would mind turning it on, that'd be great.
So I've got some definitions here. A realtor is a person who acts as an agent for the sale and purchase of buildings and land. Okay, that's the dictionary definition. So what a realtor or a real estate agent, the difference is a real estate agent is a person who has a license in real estate. A realtor, you get that title when you become a member of the Realtors Association. So what we do is we work with people who are looking to buy or sell real estate. There's two types of real estate, basically, kind of three, but we'll say two. There's residential. So that's like houses, condos, things like that, places where people live. That's residential real estate. And then there's what we call, and you may have heard or seen signs for commercial real estate. Commercial real estate is not like commercials on TV. That is real estate where you can buy and sell places to do business. So like a restaurant you could buy, or a warehouse if you wanted to run a business where you needed a warehouse. That's all buildings that people can own where you don't live in them. The type of real estate agent I am is residential. And that means that I work with people who want to buy a home or to sell a home. So let's talk about buying a home. There's a lot involved in the process that is related to like the law, legal stuff. You need to have a lot of contracts that people sign. It's a lot of money that's being exchanged. So the average person doesn't have a lot of experience in that realm. People seek out real estate agents in order to just help with the process. So I can help people get information about what houses are for sale. I can help people decide if they like a house and they want to make an offer to buy it. I can help them write up the contract that they would submit to someone selling a house, figure out what price they want to do. There's a lot of negotiating and advocating that goes on along the way. We've got to get inspections on houses to make sure that they're in good condition. And we assist our clients, so the people buying the house, with all of that. Or if you're selling a house, I help you market it. I help you get it ready to sell it. I help you, find people who want to buy your house. That makes sense of what a realtor does? I can't see you guys, but let me know if it doesn't. So the other thing that I'll talk about a little bit is called a brokerage. You already heard me mention it. Um, it's the company where I say hang your license. That's just what that's how we call it. Basically, in order to be licensed in real estate in the state of Colorado, you have to work for somebody who has more experience than you, at least starting out. For your first 3 years, you have to work for somebody else. You can't do it on your own. So you guys may have seen signs or heard of like Remax, Keller Williams. Those are some of the big ones, commercials even. There's a lot of different real estate brokerages just in Denver and like in the whole country. Anybody after 3 years being a real estate agent can start their own brokerage, and they can basically have agents work for them. But in order to have a license, you have to have a brokerage that you work with. And they can help you with marketing. You can get support. At my brokerage, we have staff meetings every Monday, and people come in and train us. And we get a lot, we get mentors, we get a lot of different benefits from being a part of it. But you do have to pay for that, which I will talk about. Another definition I said earlier is commission. So it's just a different way of getting paid than most jobs. Commission is payment received specifically related to the completion of a job or project. That's my own definition. But basically, it's often in sales jobs. But so if I help someone buy a house, I get paid out of the money from the sale of that house. I don't get paid to like go to my office and go to work. I don't get paid to do any of the things that I need to do to get clients or to help until the sale is complete, which is different than an hourly or salaried paid job, which is more consistent wages associated with it. So say you work at McDonald's and you make $12 an hour, and you go in and you punch a clock and you're there for 5 hours and you make $60. That's an hourly wage. A lot of jobs also have will be a salary where say you make $50,000 in a year. And that you get those paychecks every 2 weeks, and you get your vacation and everything's included in that. You know how much you're going to make. In real estate, it's commission only for the most part. So you have to count on the fact that you need to sell a house in order to have a paycheck, which is, I think, one of the biggest different things in real estate about how it is structured. And I like to point that out to people, because part of the reason that I stopped doing it in my 20s is because I knew I had to pay my rent every month, but I didn't have any sales yet. And I didn't know where the money was going to come from, right? So that's something to consider. Real estate is really fun, though, on the other side, right? You get to help people buy and sell homes. You get to I love going and looking at all the different houses with people. You see such unique things. You see cool things. You see creepy things. You see weird things. So it's kind of different every day what you're doing. Okay, I'm going to stop and ask if there's any questions, because I can't see anything right now. But Audrey, do we have anything else right now, or anybody?
I don't see any questions in the chat. If anyone wants to unmute and ask anything, I think a question that I have, I know you mentioned that your days don't always look the same, but what might like a sample day kind of look like if you were working with a client on trying to buy a house?
Yeah. So I, for instance, I can kind of tell you maybe how a transaction goes. So for me, a lot of my days look like trying to find people who want to buy houses, right? A lot of it, you guys, is marketing. I post things on social media. I reach out to people I know to remind them that I'm doing real estate now and ask if they know anybody. You really have to sell yourself. And so I spend a lot of time doing what we call prospecting, which is just like thinking of all the people I know and, how I can approach them to ask about whether they want to buy or sell a home or whether they know someone else who does. And then thinking of different ways to market myself. That's a lot of how you spend your time. But if you're working on a transaction, which is more fun, you will, meet with your clients. So have a meeting, talk about what they want to do, whether we'll talk about buying houses. So we talk about kind of what kind of house they want, what are they looking for, what's their budget. And then once you got that set up, we'll spend like a whole Saturday just driving around Denver and looking at different houses that are for sale with your clients. So for me, that's really fun because I like just being with people. And I mentioned that I like seeing the houses too. But that's kind of the fun part of my job is just getting to see places and then helping somebody find the house that they love and want to buy. Once they do, we write a contract. So we decide how much we want to offer on the house. So usually the house has a price, say it's $500,000. And we look at it and we say, okay, it's got some things wrong with it. It maybe is priced a little high. We're going to offer lower. So that's one of the things I help clients do is figure that out. They want to offer $480,000. I write a contract. I get my clients to sign it. We send it to the seller or to the seller's agent. And then they decide, do they want to sell us this house? We get under contract. Once you're in a contract, there's lots of things that need to happen. So the realtor's job is to make sure everything's happening on schedule, to make sure the clients understand what's going on and explain it to them throughout the process. And then, get to the point where the money is exchanged and the clients get the keys to their house. So it's more than just a day in the life, but that's kind of like an overview of what a realtor does working, like helping someone buy a house. All right. So how do you get there? How do you become a real estate agent? You guys saw my path was like not direct. I've done it twice now because once I did it so long ago that my license expired and I had to go all the way through it again last year. So in the state of Colorado, our laws require you to get 168 hours of schooling. There are different ways to do it. The first time I did it, I went to school in person, and I went for 8 hours a day for like a couple full weeks. This time I did it online. It was less expensive, but it was a little harder to learn that way. I think you guys have probably experienced the difference between being in the classroom with your teacher and being on the computer. And in the way I did it, we didn't have teachers. We just read. I just had to read things and take tests, read and take tests, watch videos. So it was definitely different. After you do all the schooling, which includes a lot of stuff, some stuff I will never need to know, honestly, to do this job. But you need to know it all because you have to pass a test. So there is a federal test. So that means one that the whole country, like every realtor in the country has to take, that talks about the laws of real estate that are at the federal level that the whole country has. And then in Colorado and in every state, you have your own exam that's specific to the laws in your state. For me, it was a little tricky because sometimes what the federal government says and what our state government says are like the opposite of each other. So a lot of it is studying and memorizing up front to take the big test. Then you have to figure out where you want to work. Like I said, there's tons of brokerages. because most of them don't pay you, you get a lot of say in who you like and who you want to work with, because ultimately they're going to make money from you more than they're going to pay you, which is different than most jobs, right? And then you have to get your license and you have to get insurance. So to get your license, when you find your brokerage, the manager there has to sign off, and then the state will give you a license. You have to renew your license every year. Well, you have to renew it. I just had to. So your first year you renew it, and then you have 3 years you have to renew it. But it was expensive. It was a few $100s. So to get into real estate, I would say the total upfront cost is about $700 to $1,000 for school, for your exam, and for your license fee, just to get started. Okay. So I know you guys want to often, you're looking at all these different careers and paths to get there, but then you want to know, like, how much money can I make, right? We all sort of do. And I've talked about this along the way. So most realtors make commission only, which is typically about 2.5% to 3% of the sale price of the house. So I will explain this to you, and it may be a little confusing. In Colorado, when someone sells a house, so I'm working with someone who wants to sell their house right now, and I was just writing their contract, and the seller of the house agrees to pay 6% of the sale price to the agents involved, because they're the ones who are going to get money in their pocket from it, and the person buying the house isn't going to. This is typical. It's not what happens all the time. So they agree that once they get their money, 6% of it will go to the real estate agents, and then the real estate agents split the money. So the agent who helps the buyers gets a portion, and the agent who helps the sellers gets a portion of, like, that 6% of the sale price. So what you get paid depends on the cost of the house. And also, sometimes there'll be someone selling a house who doesn't want to pay commissions to a real estate agent. And in that case, either your buyer pays you or you don't get paid. But there's a contract with the buyer that says that they would pay you, that they have to sign, or they don't have to. But so that's how it works with getting paid in real estate. There are some brokerages, there's one in Denver that I know, that pays a salary, which is a great way for people who are really interested in real estate, who are starting out, because you're guaranteed a paycheck, but they have really high goals for you. And so that can feel, it really requires you to have competitive nature, to be really into sales, to not be shy, because you're going to get the salary, but you're going to have to sell a lot of houses and give them some money from those houses. So however it works, you have what we call a split with your brokerage. When you get paid, you owe your brokerage money. That's how they make money. So for me, when I get paid, when I help a client, I get to keep 70% of the money, and my brokerage gets 30% of the money that I make. So if it's $100 that I made, I keep $70, they get $30, even though I technically earned 100. So this is also something to know if you're thinking about it. And then there's a cost to doing business. We have to do marketing. I have to pay for software to help me write my contracts. I have to pay for memberships to different organizations so that I can see what houses are for sale, and so that I can be a realtor. You have to pay for that title of realtor. And then my brokerage doesn't have other fees, but some do. Some charge you $30 a month just to work there. So it's kind of the opposite of how we think of jobs, generally. And then I just wanted to list some other careers in the field of real estate, because I do think if people are really interested in real estate, but starting out, you may be nervous about that commission only piece or anything like that. There are other ways to start in the field that aren't just being a real estate agent. So we have a lot of administrative roles in the offices we work in. There's marketing people. There's people who help with operations, which is like, making sure that all the office stuff works, and the copier, and the making sure the checks are distributed when people get paid and things like that. There's in real estate, we have something called a transaction coordinator that helps us real estate agents make sure we have all our paperwork, because there's a lot of paperwork involved, and the state is very serious about it. If you mess it up, then you can lose your license and owe money and get in a lot of trouble. So there are people whose job is just to make sure that the paperwork is accounted for, because you can get really busy running around doing real estate. And there's more jobs in offices. There's a loan officer. So when a person goes to buy a house, usually they get a loan for that. And there's people who help them secure their loan, which is also called a mortgage. But there's that job. That's very math oriented. You like math, you want to be in this field, you might be the mortgage broker. There's inspector. Inspectors are the people who go into the houses and look and make sure that that everything's okay. And that takes a lot of training. Also, like, really good for someone who understands kind of construction and building and is interested in things like that. But they examine the furnaces and the roofs and everything. Insurance agents. In order to have a mortgage and buy a house, you have to have homeowners insurance. So anytime someone buys a house, they need insurance, but there's also other kinds of insurance. So car insurance, life insurance. But that's just another person that we work with regularly. And then an appraiser is another part of the industry. Somebody has to go into the home and make sure that it costs as much as the buyer is paying for it, or it's worth as much or more for the loans to go through. So there's somebody who's trained and licensed to figure out through different methods how much houses are worth, and that's a job too. And then a lot of people hear about flipping houses. You've probably heard about that, or investing in real estate. That's a way that also people make an income. Investing would be like you buy properties and you rent them out. So that's like being a landlord, basically. And then flipping is something we hear about a lot, and people have probably seen a lot, even in our neighborhoods in Denver, where somebody buys a house and then like fixes it up, or changes it and then sells it for more money. I just am bringing that up because you guys have probably heard it or seen it. That really, in my mind, would require like an understanding of construction and design and things like that to get that work done, to have that like actually generate income. That was a lot. Do you guys have questions?
Yeah, what questions do you guys have? Again, you can unmute, you can put them in the chat, whatever is easiest.
Was it overwhelming? I'm sorry, did I give too much information?
No, definitely not overwhelming. We appreciate it. They're just a little quiet today. Anyone questions? Sebastian? Yeah.
How do you like make the contracts?
You want to say it louder? Sebastian would like to know how you make the contracts. Like, what's that process like?
Yeah, so lucky for me, you guys, it's really easy. So I said I have to pay for a software, like a computer program to help me write contracts. The state of Colorado has specific approved contracts that you have to use. So I have software that already has the contract all written, and I just have to fill in the blanks in certain areas. So it has blanks for things like how much do they want to pay for the house? Or I just had to write a contract with someone who wants to sell a house saying that they commit to pay me and to work with me. And so I had to fill in some stuff there. Um, so that is really easy on the real estate agents as long as you understand them, and we go to school to understand them. There are some people choose not to work with a real estate agent, or there's complicated things that come up, and lawyers have to do that. We're not allowed to like create anything new. We have to use what the state tells us to use.
Cool. Thank you so much. I have a question. What is like your favorite part of the job? And then what is like your least favorite part?
Yeah, so for me, I told you guys that I worked in nonprofits and I worked in schools like for a long time. I really love people and like being around people and supporting people kind of in what they're up to, like in big things. So whether it used to be high school students when they were trying to figure out what they were going to do with their lives, or when I managed people, helping them. Now it's really like I love to work with first time home buyers and people buying homes because it's such a cool, empowering thing, right? When you get to a point where you can afford to own your own home, it's a big deal, and I love to be able to get to help people in that and to be a part of it. Um, Selling houses is where you make a little more money, not gonna lie. So we like that too. Um, because the agents that help sellers make a little bit more when they split it. It's not split evenly. They make a little bit more than the agents who help buyers. Um, anyway, but what I don't like is that sort of unsteadiness in pay, you know? Like I said, when I did it when I was younger, it didn't work for me because I was on my own and I had rent to pay, and not knowing when my next paycheck was going to come in just didn't work. It was too scary and not reliable. And I think I still feel that way now, even though I've had, some transactions and I have a husband who has income. So we know that we can afford to pay our mortgage. Um, but that part feels hard. Um, and also the sales part of it, I'm not a huge, like, you have to be really good at selling yourself and like, being out there. And not, that's not necessarily my strong suit. Um, so that part can feel hard. It's something I've had to work at.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah.
Sally, I would like to hear your sales pitch real quick, like just to hear what you would say
Oh,
when you were gonna sell the
sure.
house.
I don't even know. Okay. So I think part of it is like there's stages, right? So
Yeah.
far I haven't talked to anybody I don't know. But one of the
Okay.
ways that, so I'll tell you this, I'm going to talk my way to it. But one of the ways that realtors get business, especially newer realtors, so like when I was very new, um, is, have you guys ever heard of an open house or seen signs for an open house or been to one?
Yes, you can go in, like you can go in and like view the house and see if you want to buy it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's a big place you have to do sales pitches. So basically, I didn't, when I first started, I didn't have any houses for sale, but my coworkers did. And so they'd let me like host their open house. And the reason you would want to host an open house is because you stand there and, you greet everybody and have to basically be like, hey, do you have a real estate agent? And are you working with anybody? And they are like, yes. And then you're like, oh, okay. Or they're like, no. And then you're like, oh, great. Well, like, I'm interested, tell me what you're interested in about this house. Or do you like it? Are you looking to buy a house? It's really more about asking questions than doing like a direct sales pitch, right? Because
Okay.
people, when they're buying a house, I think can feel really put off. It's a really big deal and it's a lot of money, right? So if you walked into an open house and somebody was like, "Hey, you should buy this house and you want me to be your agent because like I'm the best one." Sometimes people like are like, "Whoa."
Mhm.
So I try to like kind of ask questions, learn what people are interested in, and then approach it from that, right? "Oh, you guys are looking to buy a house. Oh, two bedrooms? Okay. You're not working with an agent? Great. Well, like I'd be super excited to work with you, like, and help you figure that out. I love working with buyers, first time home buyers is sort of my specialty. We can have a lot of fun and I understand like it's a big deal. Um, and so no pressure, but like let me know if you want me to help you kind of start seeing what's on the market. Let me know if you want me to introduce you to a lender. Like I kind of like ease in like that so that people don't feel pressured, but also understand like I'm here to help, you know? And so that's kind of my style.
Okay. So you ask a bunch of questions to try to get them on the good side so that you can like convince them to like
Yeah.
kind of buy the house,
Yeah.
basically.
I tend to think that I'm a genuine person and I don't necessarily have a plan. It just
Okay.
like I try to relate to people.
Okay.
But I hear what you're asking, right? Is like, how do I get them to work with me? So at my brokerage, one of the things I really like about it is that we work on referral. And so we don't have to what we call cold call. A lot of realtors and mortgage brokers do a lot of cold calling. And what that means is you get a list of phone numbers and you just start calling people. "Hey, I heard that you were interested in buying a house. Do you want to work with me?" Oh, and you go in your neighborhood and see like houses for sale and you have no relationship with those people. At my brokerage, we start by like talking to everybody we know. And so usually you have like a warm introduction. Like it's not like it's someone you kind of already know. And so they kind of know why they're talking to you because they want to buy a house and you do. At an open house, yeah, I've seen people when I first started think I could tell that they thought I was being too aggressive, and I'm not an aggressive person, but they thought I was trying to sell them something too hard, and then they'd be like, "Oh," people are scared to be sold, is what I've decided in life or what I've learned. And if you think about it, we all have that. Like, if someone comes at you and is trying to sell you something, like, hey, anything, right? You walk past a restaurant and they're like, "Hey, you should come eat here. Hey," and you're like, "Ah, why are you talking to me?" So I think it's kind of about easing into it. And for me, like, I want to support people who want to work with me and like build relationships with people. That's what I'm in it for. And so I don't ever want to push somebody into something they don't want to do.
Thank you. We have just a couple more minutes to wrap up. Does anyone have any final questions for Sally?
How many houses have you sold like in between since you started since you regained your license? How many houses have you sold so far?
Two, Beto. And it's been 6 months.
6
Since
months. And
Yeah.
okay.
So
And you've met up. Well, how many like meetings have you done before you've sold those two houses?
I had a few clients that I was working with. So I did open houses and I talked to a lot of people at open houses. I did a lot. So I probably talked to like 20 or 30 people at open houses. Um, I also have to say, I had a few clients. It was a really weird time in real estate. And that's the other thing about this business is that like it's kind of boom or bust at times. So there was a time when I think a lot of people have heard a lot about real estate over the past few years because people were making a lot of money in 2020, 2021, the beginning of 2022. Um, like Denver's housing market was crazy. Things were selling for so much money. They were selling for over asking. People were doing crazy things to get houses. And the interest rate, which is like the amount you pay on your loan, was really low. And then I got my real estate license, and the interest rate like went really high. So all of a sudden, the cost of buying a house was like so much higher, and it kept going up at the end of last year. So I
It was
had
like a recession.
yeah, well yeah, like they say we're gonna enter a recession, maybe they're like on the edge. Um, so like interest, I'll give you an idea. When you get a loan, you have to pay interest on it, whether it's your student loan, whether it's a loan for a business, whether it's a loan for a house. And last year, the interest rates, or the year before, were around 3%. So you had to pay back what you owed plus 3%. By the end of last year, like December, they were at 7%. So you had to pay back what you owed plus 7%. So more than double what it had been before. And I had a couple clients who were trying to buy houses, but what they were going to have to owe on their loan just kept getting higher and higher and higher. And the housing prices weren't coming down that much. So all of a sudden, you were going to pay, say you were going to pay 1,200 a month for a house, and then the interest rates went up, and all of a sudden you were going to pay 2,000 a month for that same house or that same price. And so I definitely had people who couldn't afford to buy a house anymore, um, who are going to look next, who had to re-sign a lease at their apartment or whatever. So there was a few. I had two clients that got hurt, and I had one client who decided not to sell their house because it was a bad market to sell it in. So a lot of that happened last year for realtors, which also makes it kind of a unstable income situation. You just gotta be prepared.
So if you think if you were to be in the thing before the interest like went up, you would have profited a lot from selling properties.
I do think so. I think I would have profited more for sure.
I have a
But
question.
yeah,
What corporate do you work with? Like, you know how you say there's different corporates. What corporate do you work with?
yeah, it's called.
Like,
I'll put our website in here. It's got kind of a funny name, but I like them. It's called Live Laugh Denver. We're very small. I also put my email in the chat. So
yeah, I was
maybe
gonna ask for your email. Hmm.
yeah. So I'm like super happy to like talk more, meet, have I don't know, hot chocolate, whatever. But to like have a conversation with you because it sounds like, especially you, Berto, you're like really at the point where you're figuring out what's next. You're going to graduate soon.
Yeah,
I'm always happy to have conversations about that kind of stuff. So you can email me. I put our website in there. We're really small. There's some really big ones, and the structure of all of them is different. So like doing one's homework is a good idea, right?
for sure. Do you have like other connections with the like other corporates that you know that can like help you, or do you know any people that have like for example investing and flipping? Do you know any people that like do that for like their thing?
I
I
do
want to
know
get in.
people.
I want to get into contact with people that do that so I can. But first, I want to start at the level. I haven't even got my license yet. I still got to
Yeah,
put in the 168 hours, but it's something
yeah.
that I'm really interested in.
Yeah. Thanks, Rupe. Um,
Yeah, Arupe, thank you for joining. Oh, they just logged off. That's okay. Yeah,
okay.
I'll go ahead and, like I said, have us wrap up in just a second, just to honor Sally's time, and then Berto, in case you need to get to class or anything. Any final,
Yeah,
anything?
I know a lot of different people. Like, seriously, email me. Um, I think it's a good time to get into real estate in the sense that like the market's gonna bounce back. It doesn't take that long to do all the schooling and stuff. You gotta pass the test though, and it takes a lot of studying. But there is, so like I mentioned Atlas Real Estate. I have a friend there, and I know that they do some salaried, which for me, what I think for young people getting started is a good place to start. They give you leads, they like pay you some money. You owe them a lot, but at least you're not just out there having to spend money to make money and not guaranteed a paycheck, right?
Mhm.
So I kind of like that for the beginning and then build on your own. And then with the flipping and investing and stuff, I do know people who do that. It became really hard to do it in the end of last year because how high interest rates were. It was just, you had to have a lot of money up front
Like, mhm.
to get the house that you want to flip. So I think that's also totally an option. It's just it became a little bit harder more recently.
Okay. Okay.
Awesome.
Well,
Um, any other questions, Berto? If not, we're gonna send some more guest speaker options for the next 2 weeks to like your teachers and your counselors, and they'll let you know some other people that are gonna come speak if you want to join any other ones.
please, that would be awesome.
Well, awesome. Thanks so much for joining.
And thank you guys for your time. I really
Yeah,
learned a lot from just being in this call. So
Yeah.
I'm looking
thank
forward
you.
to having a conversation with you guys again.
Yeah.
Well, thank
And
you.
definitely email me. I'm totally happy to talk to you.
Cool. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Have a good one. Take it easy.